My maid of honor told everyone I was a bridezilla for kicking her out of my wedding, but when I exposed what she did with my husband before the ceremony, no one called me crazy again. I'll get right to it. I canceled my wedding an hour before the ceremony. I didn't plan a viral moment or revenge theater. I reacted to a betrayal so plain and immediate that staying quiet felt like collusion. I had been engaged for a year. I, 34F, and Tom, 36M, had spent months planning a wedding that was mostly small and careful. A church ceremony, backyard reception at a local venue, my grandmother's china, the florist who'd done my mom's flowers. We had 12 bridesmaids and a half-dozen groomsmen. Lauren, my maid of honor since college, was one of my closest friends. She'd been with me through bad breakups and bad haircuts. Choosing her felt right. The weekend was supposed to be the last little box ticked before all that newness. The rehearsal dinner had been warm. Family and friends told stories about how we'd met. But I've always been a planner who notices small things. Over the last 6 months, there had been odd little missteps. Texts I saw on the side that didn't add up with schedules, a private account that blinked in and out of visibility, late-night excuses that sounded rehearsed. I brushed most of it off because Tom has an intense job and because I trusted that close people sometimes make messy choices and then put them back together. The moment everything tipped was dumb and random. One of my bridesmaids forwarded me a screenshot by mistake, meant for a private group chat, that showed a dim photo and a caption. Hotel stairwell, 2 a.m. OMG. I opened it, and my stomach dropped because the jacket in the photo was unmistakable. It was the one Tom had left in our hallway after the last cold snap. The silhouette beside it had Lauren's profile. The two leaned into each other the way people do when they don't plan for witnesses. I stared at the image until the world narrowed. It felt like small, ordinary terror, enough to make questions urgent and to make any attempt at polite handling feel like cowardice. I walked to the bridal suite where Lauren was getting her hair touched up and asked her, quietly, "Is this you and Tom?" She looked at my phone, blinked, and then tried the usual moves: dismiss, blame the messenger, call the asker dramatic. "You can't be serious," she said. "This looks like a picture from a movie. You're reading into everything." Her voice slid into that admonishing tone people use to shut real conversation down. "You're being sensitive. You're ruining the vibe." I told her calmly, "If it's not you, then tell me that. Tell me it's not Tom." Her answer came like a practice puff. "You're thinking the worst. Don't be a bridezilla about this." The word hung there, bridezilla, a label I joked about once when I was feverishly checking RSVPs. The next thing she did was worse. Before I could finish the question, she swept out of the suite and went downstairs. I called after her, but she was already on the phone in the lobby. Moments later, the accusation ricocheted back up. Lauren was telling people I'd exploded and forced her out. She made it sound neat and tidy. The anxious bride who ruins a friendship in a panic. I felt the room pivot. Whispered sympathies started turning my way like a small, cold wind. That is the specific social maneuver I had to outmaneuver. Ask the question, get called insane, then have the evidence reframed. I could have tried to talk privately with more people, begged someone to believe me, or I could make the evidence visible in a place where the rumor mill couldn't rewrite it all before anyone saw. I chose the second. I told the wedding planner I needed the projector right away. I asked the DJ if he could switch the slideshow from engagement photos to a file I dropped on a flash drive in the bathroom 30 minutes earlier. My hands shook, but my voice didn't when I took the mic. I said, "I need to say something. It will take 5 minutes." I felt everyone lean in like a wave of attention closing in, and for the first time that day, I felt steady. On the big screen, I pulled up the photo, and then the thread of short messages that followed. "I'll meet you by the bar. Don't wear the dress. 2 a.m. stairwell." I read the messages slowly, without sarcasm, because facts have a weight that gossip doesn't. You could hear the room exhale, as if a held breath finally found a release. Tom's face blanched. He had that small, practiced smile he uses in a crisis, the one people think smooths things, and it didn't hold. He tried, in fragments, to say it wasn't what it looked like. I asked, "Did you kiss her?" He stammered, then admitted, quietly, that he had. Lauren started to sob, the kind of theatrical gasp that's half anger and half show, shouting that I'd overreacted, that I'd made her feel humiliated. She called me bridezilla, again, louder this time, as if volume might reframe facts. If you've been in a room where truth and story collide, you know how loyalties shift. People who'd been ready to tell me to calm down were quiet now. The label of bridezilla no longer stuck because staring at the projection was the only sensible thing left to do. The evidence was unglamorous and ugly and true. The conversation hooped and split into whispered phone calls. Tom begged. "We can fix this," he said. "I love you." His words came small and unconvincing. I could have let it limp on, married the man who'd kissed my best friend, endured the aftershock of look and pass, and pretended stability mattered more than honesty. I couldn't. I put the mic down and said, plainly, I'm not marrying someone who would do this. I can't make this okay. We're done. I called off the wedding right there. People gasped. A few guests stood up, as if to intervene. My dad put a hand on my back. His face was quietly furious. My mother-in-law looked wounded in that specific way of someone who had to reconcile a social picture with an ugly fact. Tom and Lauren left in a clumsy huddle. The reception folded. Vendors were paid. The flowers were boxed. Chaos folded into a raw, shocking kind of clarity. Update. The next morning, the fallout was noise. Lauren posted a story painting me as a bride who publicly humiliated me, which got the usual steam of outrage from people who only saw her post. For a scary hour, a handful of messages accused me of overreacting. But then a couple of bridesmaids messaged me with photos and tiny confirmations. Tom sneaking out, Lauren slipping into the hotel lobby, a video of them leaving together. Those private confirmations changed the tenor. People who'd been prepared to side with a comfortable narrative started to ask questions, and then to say sorry. Tom didn't call me at first. His friends did. Some told me he was in shock. Others wanted to know if I'd reconsidered. I spoke to my sister and a few close friends. I slept in an ugly hotel room the night the wedding didn't happen and felt shame and a strange relief in equal amounts. The relief came from not having to live a lie. The shame came from the public wound. Update. 2 weeks later, Tom and I separated. There was no big custody or legal fight. We hadn't married, so formally it was easier, but negotiations still existed around deposits, refunds, and shared plans. We spent hours untangling vendors, returning gifts, canceling orders. It was logistical heartbreak. Social media chewed the bones of our drama for a while. Some people took my side, some his, some found the whole thing juicy. Lauren lost more than a friend. Her job at a small PR firm felt tenuous after clients heard murmurs. Several mutual friends quietly distanced themselves. She posted an apology that read like it was written in defense of PR rather than remorse, and that didn't help. People who'd known she'd had issues with boundaries found it hard to defend her decision. My mother-in-law, predictably, was quiet and then distant. Certain family relationships were strained because the polite thing in some social circles is to avoid asking questions. That wounded me in a way that surprised me, not because I'd expected uniform support, but because the splintering felt childish and small. My dad, though, sat with me through vendor calls and made sure the deposit with the caterer didn't vanish into nothing. He'd always been my quiet ally. That mattered more than any performative neighborly gossip. Update. 6 weeks later. The dust settled into a quieter shape. People stopped bringing it up at barbecue conversations. Some friends texted late and said, I'm sorry I didn't see it, meaning they'd seen the signs but chose silence. Some of those friends apologized patiently, as if sorry could repair years of assumed trust. Tom moved out of the apartment we'd been planning to share. He tried several times to fix it publicly. I refused calls that felt performative. Over time, a funny thing happened. The label of Bridezilla reversed into a label of decisive. People started telling me it was brave to choose truth instead of a glossy wedding. They didn't say that loudly. It was quieter and steadier. A friend bringing canned soup and staying for an hour. Another sending a message about how my children's book choices were great. Small kindnesses. Final update. 3 months later. The surreal part of this is that life recalibrated almost painfully fast. I rescheduled a small celebration months later. No projector, no big speeches, just dinner with people I trusted. My dad toasted a version of me I didn't know I wanted to be. Someone who won't let themselves be the easy explanation in someone else's story. Tom and I don't speak in any meaningful way. He called once, begging for conversation, and I said I had nothing to give him that wouldn't be a rehearsal for more disappointment. Lauren reached out with a few apologetic messages that felt more like salvage attempts than repair, and I blocked her. A couple of mutual friends fell away. A couple grew closer. That's how trust reorganizes a social network. Some people fall out, others step in. If someone asks me now if I regret the projector, the call off, the way the reception folded into something raw and immediate, no. There are probably things I would have done differently in tone or timing, but the core thing remains. I refuse to let a tidy narrative about me stand in the face of a simple truth. I didn't want to live with a lie framed by a nice dress and good photos. People don't call me a bridezilla anymore. They call me decisive or brave. And sometimes that sound embarrasses me because bravery is often just choosing what feels honest even when it's lonely. That's the end.